Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Little Talks with PopCultX. I'm Daniel, and today we are joined by a familiar face. If you watch NBC in San Diego, he anchors, he shoots, he produces sports there. We are joined today by Derek Togerson. How are you today, Derek?
I'm doing well, Daniel. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. So they haven't given you the keys to the helicopter there yet, eh?
No, unfortunately, I do not have my pilot's license. I have been up in a helicopter before, but never actually been piloting it because
Okay.
they understand that I am not good with a car. Therefore, they probably don't want me bouncing around up in the sky.
Well, there's nothing to bounce off of up there in the sky, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but the one time you do find something to bounce off of, it's bad.
It's the last time.
But the one time is the last time you bounce off of something with a helicopter.
So just a quick question about you. How did you get into sports broadcast or newscasting and whatnot? What led you to that?
I took a bunch of loves of mine and threw them all together when I was in college. I was a wannabe athlete growing up. I was good enough to, play a little bit of college baseball.
Okay.
Wasn't good enough to be a professional baseball player. I learned that pretty early on. I got the game upstairs, not necessarily the physical ability to do it. So when I realized I wasn't going to be a pro athlete, I'm like, okay, well, I love sports, but I also started school as a theater major. So I loved performing.
Okay. Right on.
And I was doing an English minor, so I loved writing. So I finally said, you know what? I did an audition for West Side Story and realized I can't sing a lick. And all these people could actually sing. And this was back when theater was like all Andrew Lloyd Webber stuff, right? It was,
I hear you.
It was,
Phantom
Phantom and Starlight and Cats. And he
Miss Saigon and yep.
Yeah, precisely. And then you threw Grease in there and you threw West Side Story in there. And that was basically what it was. I'm like, I can't sing. I'm going to be a waiter for a long time. So I better change. Let's see if I can combine my love for sports, writing, and performing. And went and did an internship at a local TV station and said, this is for me. So I just kind of changed my major, worked my way in, and lo and behold, a lot of really good luck and good relationships. I've been able to now 24 years later still to be doing it.
Right on. That sounds fabulous. That sounds like something right up my alley. I mean, I love sports. I know I couldn't be professional, and I was theater major. So yeah, that's quite awesome. Well, that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you for this particular episode is because I really want to do an episode on sports and pop culture because there is a great commingling of the two entertainments, and absolutely. I think that I'll just get right into it with like the recent Major League Baseball Field of Dreams game. Mm-hmm. So that took the Field of Dreams.
You're going to make me cry this early in the episode, really.
Right off the bat, we're just knocking that out of the park.
I appreciate that. Wow, I was bawling like a baby doing that.
I watched the introduction to it. I didn't get to see it live, but I did see it off of Twitter. The introduction when Kevin Costner walked out, roamed around the field for a couple minutes, and then when the players appeared through the cornfield, it just sent chills up and down my whole body. It was just like, wow, Major League Baseball gets it. They know what their fans want, and that was it. And it was just such a great crossover moment for me because earlier in life, I had watched Field of Dreams, but never really understood it until I went back and watched it recently. And just the relationship between baseball and father and son and how it can bring people together. And it was just a fantastic moment. Now, you said you were balling there a little bit. Was that something that hit home for you more?
One of my sons is a big baseball player. He's 13, and he is. Okay. I coached him in the league, and we had undefeated seasons. And like he's a better ball player now than I ever was. But we bonded over baseball, right? And I'm going to stop talking about it because I can feel it coming up a little bit already. So that's something that we got. So that movie has always meant something to me, just in that regard. To see it on that field, and to see, and you're right. Aaron Judge is not a small human, and he just came out of the ether when he walked out of the cornfield and going, how they did that, it's phenomenal. It's almost like movie magic, right? Mm-hmm. And you're right, that movie is not about the redemption of Shoeless Joe. It's not about, America and how it's, rolled by like an army of steamrollers and been torn down and rebuilt again. It's about a father and a son, and now baseball brings them together. And seeing that and watching that game, and then with the way that even I was crying at the end because Tim Anderson hits the walk-off bomb.
Right.
And he's a man who would not have been allowed to play during the era of the uniforms that they were wearing. I'm like, this is just so true. Coming full circle.
Wow. That's
See,
true.
A moment that was so fantastic like that. The entire thing was great. And I actually know somebody who was there from San Diego. He took his dad and was actually guest of baseball commissioner Rob Manfred. His dad is ALS and is a huge baseball fan and wanted to be there with his son because they both love the movie.
Oh, wow.
And listening to their story was like, oh God, this is it's so perfect. And how many times have we been able to say, boy, baseball got it right in the last 20 years, right? They screw stuff up constantly. Where's the universal DH? What's this runner on second to start extra innings crap? They get so many things wrong. For them to be this pitch perfect on something like this, it was just so awesome to see.
Completely agree. Piggytailing off of Field of Dreams. So what would you say is like your favorite baseball movie?
Oh, another Kevin Costner movie is Bull Durham.
Oh, okay.
I think that's, I mean, just having, and I've talked to a lot of guys at the big league level who say they all love that movie to a man because it's the most realistic sports film that they've ever seen. Just in the grind of the bus leagues and the conversations that you have with people and like the struggle to try and make it to the show. And I mean, the lines from that movie too, they're iconic, like
they
all get out here in a hurry. No, it travels that far to have a stewardess on it, don't you think? Well, you can't say that. Sorry, flight attendant. Yeah, I have to say. You hit the bull, you win a free steak. There's so many great moments and lines from that film. That's every baseball season, right when spring training's right around getting to an end. Usually after I get back from Peoria from Padres spring training, I pop that movie on and watch it again, and it's timeless. How about you?
Yeah.
What is your favorite baseball movie, and is that also your favorite sports movie? Because also my favorite sports movie of all time.
Oh goodness. So baseball movie I really enjoy. Let's see. Of course, there's Major League, just because of the characters involved with it, and
great lines in that one too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I really enjoy like League of Our Own with Tom Hanks, and I think that takes a different spin on the baseball movie, and of course with the women's professional league. And I think Gina Davis in that movie is just phenomenal. Now, I know they're making a spin-off there. I think they're making a TV show with Nick Offerman playing the Tom Hanks coach role.
Really?
Coming up pretty soon.
That'll be really good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I'm a huge Nick Offerman fan, and I know he has many hidden talents on top of acting. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, just a general favorite sports movie. Wow, there are so many of them.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Which is great.
There's a lot.
And it's perfect for what we're talking about today because pop culture, movie, entertainment, and sports, they are hand in hand. I know, like, oh goodness, now I'll have to think about that. And I'll circle back to that. What my favorite sports movie is.
Another one that people talk about a lot.
Hoosiers is a great basketball movie.
Because that's really based on a true story, and the story is amazing. This tiny little school in Hickory, Indiana, goes and wins the all division state championship. And shortly after that, they mixed divisions. So we're literally never going to see a team like that accomplish something like that again.
True.
So it's really, really well done film. That one's really good. Rudy is completely Hollywooded up, but darn it, can you not cry when he gets that sagging? Which didn't actually happen, but when he gets in there and does that at the end of that game, it's like you're standing up in the theater, you're clapping, you don't care who's around.
Rudy was one of my favorites growing up. Remember the Titans was probably one of my favorite movies with Denzel Washington, and when they brought together the two high schools and won the football championship. I think that was probably a movie I can watch on repeat just because I like all the characters and how they, the race mixing. And I think it's just a wonderful story and message for us to hear. So I think that's probably one of my top favorites is Remember the Titans.
And Denzel is just good in everything. You cannot go wrong putting Denzel in your movie.
That's true.
Now, I know one that we talked about kind of when we were chatting about doing this is the Space Jam thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that is one that a lot of people, I see it on social media, people going, Space Jam. And I think my take is it's absolutely a generational thing because I'm in my late 40s. So that movie came out when I was in college. And at the time I was like, in my Pulp Fiction, L.A. Confidential, Usual Suspects, like Shawshank, like it had to be like more gritty kind of thing. So it never really resonated with me. My wife, it came out when she was 11. So she loves that movie because it was a cartoon that resonated with her then. So I was never into the original Space Jam. I think I'm just outside that age group to make it really, as much as big a Michael Jordan fan as I was, that kind of lost it. And now watching the new one, my kids really like it.
Oh, okay.
And because again, like, the cartoon thing, and my wife and I are kind of like, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
I was actually more excited to see like all those players together on one team.
Yeah, definitely.
I would love to see Dame and LeBron together on the court. That would be fantastic.
For sure. I mean, I agree with you in the Space Jam and who its the target audience was, especially with the original and then, of course, the reboot. But just having stars like Michael Jordan or LeBron James just transcend their sport, which I think is what takes them into the pop culture realm. And I think to other stars who have transcended their sport, I think really my thought goes to like pro wrestling with like Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, or even now with like Dave Bautista. And they've really come from a sports entertainment platform of wrestling into the mainstream pop culture. Because now we can't turn on a movie in recent years without seeing one of those guys, without seeing Dwayne Johnson or Dave Bautista. They're just taking over and dominating, which I think is great because personally, I think their personality is so charismatic and so over the top that you can't help but root and like them.
Oh, The Rock is, having interviewed him a couple times.
Oh, okay.
Everything that you see with him, his personality, is absolutely real. He is 100% legit. Like, that's a dude you root for to have success. Now, his movies get a little repetitive for me. But the dude, his personality is just so big and so larger than life. He's just such a cool, likable guy. So if you are on the fence about The Rock, he's completely legit. Like The Rock, watch his stuff. He's a great dude. Haven't met Dave Bautista, but I have seen some interviews with him. And what's interesting about him is as Drax, he is absolutely spot on perfect.
Yes,
I agree. He made that character so much bigger than it ever was. Even in the comics, in one of the iterations, he kills Thanos. Right. So he was a fairly big deal in the comics. Had a lot of ability to be kind of a secondary fall off to the wayside character in the movies. Dave Bautista, with help from Mr. Gunn, made sure that didn't happen. So he's actually turned into, he was a very bad actor when he started. He's turned into a pretty darn good actor. I mean, if you can carry yourself in a Bond film, you're doing okay for yourself. But I will go to my grave saying the greatest theatrical performance by any former professional wrestler ever, Andre the Giant in The Princess Bride. Tell me I'm wrong.
Anybody want a peanut?
Thank you. Exactly. Yep. He's just so lovable. And he was a heel when he was a wrestler. And he comes and does that film and he's completely lovable. I love this guy.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, he was the person you wanted to see get defeated because of his size in pro wrestling. But in the movie, he was just so lovable. You're absolutely right. And it was just fantastic. I mean, now he's, I think they have his picture, his face on like those stickers you see plastered around town or everywhere. That one artist used that. And I think he just transcended into it. Did you watch the Young Rock show?
I have not.
Those
kinds of things, they don't hold young Sheldon, spin-offs of other things. I'm like, I've got other stuff to keep an eye. I've got Jeopardy reruns to go catch up
on. Jeopardy reruns. Well, hey, you can get all the right answers, right?
Yeah, seriously. Although, because actually, my wife and I, after Alex Trebek passed away, unfortunately, because we're both huge Jeopardy. Like, we bonded watching Jeopardy on the couch and challenging each other because she's freaking brilliant. When he passed, we stopped watching we even stopped playing on Alexa for a while because his voice is on there.
Right.
And it was just, guys, it was kind of hard to get back to see some of those episodes without him on us. So now we're kind of after with the DVR going back and catching up on some of the ones. Aaron Rodgers actually did a really good job. Another crossover with sports and pop culture where I think there was really something there with him, the 50-50 retirement thing. I think he was legitimately flirting with the Jeopardy job. And I think he would have done a fantastic job with it too.
I didn't get to see him host. I saw a couple of the other people, but not Aaron Rodgers. So that's interesting. Cool. I've always liked Aaron Rodgers. Thought he's a great player, obviously, but he has an outgoing personality. So I could see that.
Very, very interesting personality. He can be very prickly, but he can also be very outgoing and cool. So it kind of depends. It depends on if they won and if they decided to kick a field goal or not.
I hear you.
Matt LaFleur, your thoughts?
So you mentioned your wife, and we talked earlier, and you said that your wife was an Auburn fan.
Yep.
So there you go. This is home.
Not the state of Alabama, the state of Auburn.
Okay. I know someone who would disagree with you, Roll Tide, but that's
watch your language. There are kids around.
I have no dog in that race. I'm San Diego born and raised, so go Aztecs. But Bo Jackson,
yes,
my hero growing up, even more so than Jordan and other transcendent stars. Even though he played for the Raiders, a huge Charger fan at the time, he, to me, was like my first foray into how athletes can become bigger than their sport with the whole Bo Knows campaign for Nike and his cross trainer. I had two posters in my room growing up. One was his huge panoramic view poster of Bo Jackson with all of the different sports they had in the commercial. Yep, and the other one was Bo Jackson black and white with his shoulder pads and a bat over his shoulder. So he was, I think, the epitome of the pop culture sports crossover during that time frame for me. So any thoughts on Bo Jackson?
He was, again, as big as Michael Jordan was, Bo Jackson was the first celebrity shoe that I bought because of an ad campaign when I was a kid, because the whole Bo Knows thing was, okay, he's a freakish athlete. I mean, an absolute freak. He's the only person ever to play in the Major League Baseball All-Star Game and the Pro Bowl. I mean, it's insane what the man was able to do. And remember, he didn't ever play a full NFL season and still was named to the Pro Bowl.
Exactly.
That's how incredible he was. He had, after that hip injury, which actually is the same one that Tua Tagovailoa suffered, when you crush the pelvis and your hip just gets demolished. They didn't have the medical technology back then to figure out how to fix it. They gave him an artificial hip, and he came back and hit 20 home runs with the White Sox.
Right. I remember that.
Dude hit 20 bombs in the show with an artificial hip. Just think about that for a second. That's how incredible an athlete that Bo Jackson was. And we were robbed of some of the greatest athletic performances, I think, of all time by simply not seeing him have the rest of his prime. And his prime would have lasted he would have been the original, Frank Gore. He would have played, he would have been running back, an effective one, until he was in his mid to late 30s and still playing baseball as well. He's that amazing. But that ad campaign changed things because it was the first, like Michael Jordan, you had the whole Mars Blackman, and Spike Lee, and then they were really creative. But this is the first time they were able to just be like, throw anything against a wall and see what happens, because he transcended not just one sport, he transcended two sports. So Nike was able to take this guy and, okay, now we're diving into baseball. Now we're diving into football, because they were a basketball. Phil Knight had basketball on lockdown. But then when they got Bo, they had an inroads into baseball and they had inroads into football. And then after that, it was, well, who's the next big Nike guy? Derek Jeter. And Derek Jeter was how Michael Jordan was able to, the jump man. He was able to, Derek Jeter was the first baseball player that he endorsed. So then the baseball cleats with the jump man logo, Jeter gets them, who was, of course, the biggest star in the biggest market on the biggest team of all time. So then Manny Machado has the jump man. So now it's a big deal in baseball to have the Nike stuff. So Nike mushroom exploded into that. And the reason they did that's how they could land Tiger Woods. And now Nike is owning golf for several years.
Right.
And that iconic shot on 16 at the Masters where the ball rolls back and takes that one last rotation, and then it sits right on the lip with the Nike swoosh pointing right at the camera and then falls. Bo Jackson's the reason that all of that happened.
Completely agree. So right now, another huge, I don't even want to call it a sports show, but it is centered around a European football team, and that would be the show Ted Lasso. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the show at all?
I'm familiar with it, yes. I've seen, I think, an episode or two.
Okay. I am a huge Ted Lasso fan, and not because of the whole football, soccer portion of it. I think to me that's, and it is even downplayed a little bit in the show, but I think how they're using sports to bring all these characters and relationships together, I think is what fascinates me, because it's all centered around the American football coach going to a European soccer or football team, not knowing what he's doing over there, and kind of, finding his way through with the help of his assistant coaches and with the help of the players, and then learning how to rebuild himself. So I think it's another one of those moments where like it's going to be ingrained in pop culture history just because of how great I think it is.
The one that I saw, the thing that I kind of, it struck me was the idea from this came from somebody saying, what if Pete Carroll went to Europe and started coaching a soccer team? Mm-hmm. That's kind of how it struck me, because they have very similar kinds of personalities, the right. character and Pete Carroll, which I think is a kind of a fascinating way of looking at it. And what struck me was the show kind of has an unexpected heart to it. You know, it's like again, go back to the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. That movie has such a wonderful heart to it that you're not expecting the first time you watch it. That's kind of the vibe I got from the one episode of Ted Lasso that I saw. Was this is not about sports. Kind of like Jerry Maguire is a movie about relationships. It has sports as a backdrop.
Exactly.
Ted Lasso is kind of like a show about relationships that uses sports as a backdrop.
Exactly. That is exactly correct. And I agree with you, the whole Pete Carroll portion. I think his mannerisms can be seen, or can be translated to what we see in the character of Ted Lasso. So I agree. Another field of sports that's really taken off in pop culture, and I'm in Las Vegas right now, so they have a huge esports arena, and that's something that really, I think, is starting to gain a little more foothold in the pop culture realm, and the sports realm is esports. And I know they have a lot of different leagues, a lot of different teams. I'm not too familiar with it, but I know that it's beginning to gain some traction. Have you seen any of that around?
Oh yeah. I mean, the Luxor, that gigantic arena they have there is huge. It's in fact, I've heard rumblings and rumors that San Diego State, over at the West Campus where the stadium's going in, they have toyed with the idea of putting that kind of an arena, certainly not to that size or that level, but a couple hundred seats, some sort of a gaming arena in over there. Like cool. That idea at least has been floated. I know that. That's how big that esports have become. I mean, Marshawn Lynch has an esports entity that he is co-owning with his cousin Josh Johnson, the former University of San Diego quarterback, who's played for like 35 different professional football teams in 8 different leagues. Josh keeps on going, man. He's a good dude. He's a good quarterback to have on your club, because he knows literally every system. They have an esports entity. The League of Legends final from 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, the League of Legends final had a larger viewing audience than the Patriots-Rams Super Bowl of the same year. More people worldwide were streaming or watching the League of Legends final. The true numbers, you can look them up, than the Super Bowl, I forget what number, Super 52 or 3, whatever it was, where the Patriots beat the Rams. That's when I went, whoa. This is legitimately massive, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So yeah, esports has become... Like everybody does. I've talked to Joey Bosa, and he's a Call of Duty guy. Bubba Watson, when he was here at the U.S. Open, and he was 2 shots off the second round lead, said, "How am I going to deal with the stress of this? I'm going to go home. I'm going to play Call of Duty. I'm going to play Call of Duty constantly to keep my mind off of what is going on here at the U.S. Open." Like they're all over the place. And you see how big professional football players get really pissed off about their Madden scores. Like that's important to them. It's legitimately important to them.
Right.
Fernando Tatis Jr. is on the cover of MLB The Show, and hopefully will be till the end of time.
Yes.
Like he keeps a little eye on what his rating is in MLB The Show on PlayStation, Xbox now too. But like it's really something for that. I know Johan Santana threw the first no-hitter in Mets history several years ago, was an all-star for the Twins for several years. He would play video games to get scouting reports on other hitters. He would, instead of looking at the video before a game, he would pop in a video game. They were that accurate even back then. Like,
right.
What can I attack this guy? So he would play a video game to try and figure out how to attack. That was more or less the early editions of scouting reports. So video games have become huge in popular culture. I mean, look at this new Free Guy movie that Ryan Reynolds has coming out. It's all about video games.
Very true. And you mentioned Tatis Jr. Now, I just purchased the game, so I've been playing that nonstop, and it's just outstanding. I think the realism they've put into the game and the broadcast that they have within the game is just phenomenal. I've always been a
San Diego Studios. Yeah,
exactly. I've always been a Matty V fan, so it's great always hearing his voice on there. You're also a host of a popular podcast that celebrates all things San Diego Padres, and that is On Friar. And that can be found on all major platforms. Tell us a little bit about your experience with that and how that's really grown for you as a fan of the game, I guess.
No, thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, and I wear my Padres hat as well.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the team. I'm a fan of the game. And it's nice. It was interesting. When we first started. It was 2019 spring training, right when Manny Machado signed.
Okay,
so that's when we
first huge signing of the Padres. Yeah.
That was somewhat of a small deal. It was interesting to start it because we really had no idea what to do with a podcast. Like, how long should it go? What should you do? And we just finally realized, like, dude, just talk. Like, I like what we're doing now. Just have some ideas and just talk. Do some interviews with people. We've been able to have some really cool interviews. We did a full special episode for the 5th anniversary of the Tatis trade with the White Sox. And we actually got the scout.
The James Shield trade.
Yeah, exactly. The scout who led the scouting team to go find which guy do we want from the system. Oh, let's go with Tatis. Yeah, the guy who said go with Tatis. So we talked to him for the podcast as well. You can go,
That's cool.
Go and check that one out. It's a really cool platform to just wrap, because when you're doing TV, you got 3 minutes to do your whole show 5 times a week. And then that's for 6 o'clock. And you got a minute and a half, 2 minutes to do it at 11 o'clock. You can't possibly say all the things that you want to say. So being able to get on and do 45 minutes once a week, sometimes it's not even enough. We quote unquote emergency podcasts just because we have a lot more we want to say about something. We did one for the Slamorena game. Talked to Louis Camarena, Daniel Camarena's big brother, about again how much baseball means to their family and how much it meant for him to hit that home run for his dad off Max Scherzer. The Joe Musgrove no hitter emergency podcast.
My goodness,
so
yes,
it's really cool to just be able to be like, I am ticked off about this, and let me tell you why. Or why is everybody else calling for AJ Preller's head right now? I know he screwed up the deadline, but he got the last 4 of them right. Let's not be, no recency bias here. You can go from 1 week completely overreacting and going nuts and hot takes, and the next week going, I thought about this a little bit. Let's pump the brakes. On fire, everyone. Although I did say last week, Larry Rothschild has got to go. He's a major problem.
And I agreed with you.
That actually came true. So thank God for that.
Yes. I think I read somewhere I think Tingler said that he was the right fit at the time he was hired because they had younger pitchers. Was that maybe that was even your tweet? But now with where the team is at and the veterans that they have, he's not really the right fit. And I think I'm glad that they actually addressed it and didn't just, we'll deal with it later on. So I'm glad that they decided a new voice was correct.
Well, I was on the conference call with Jace yesterday making the decision, and he said, it's going to be it's going to be mechanical things mostly they're looking at, mechanical things and pitch usage. And I'm going, thank God they finally realized it, because in 2019, working with Darren Balsley, Chris Paddock's 4-seam fastball was elite. Last couple of years working with Larry Rothschild, it hasn't been the same pitch. He's shown flashes of it this year. It's not getting that late ride in the strike zone. Occasionally against the Mets this year, he had that, right? He had that 97 up, and guys are offering at it because it's got that RP, that spin rate is up. Well, when he's doing that, I looked at video on YouTube and said, okay, 2019, his hand is directly behind the ball. He's getting that late release, right? He's getting that late spin. And it's going straight head over heels. You look at 2020 and his hand was, I think my theory is he was messing with the curveball so much because everyone said you have to have a third pitch. And a curveball, of course, you release sideways, right?
Right.
Here. I think his fingers are getting a little bit too much to the side of the ball on the fastball.
Gotcha.
So it was rotating on the x-axis and going more of a two-seam movement and hitting a lot of barrels, which, of course, for a pitcher is bad.
I'm
looking at going, his hand is just, like, instead of he's going to be here, it was just here. Just that little bit makes you move like that instead of going here. If I can see that on YouTube from my couch, why is the pitching coach who has all the video on the planet sitting right next to the guy not able to see this? So Rothschild was not, he's not an analytics guy. That's one of the first things that Jay said about Ben Fritz, the new guy who's taking over, who was the bullpen coach is. He knows analytics. Yeah, so obviously Blake Snell goes out and shuts down the Diamondbacks over 7 shutout innings using nothing but the fastball and slider. He threw one curveball and that's it. Everything, he didn't throw the changeup once. The next outing is against the Diamondbacks again. He gets nibble, curveballs back, changeups back, gives up 3 runs in 5 innings. Not really all that effective. Runs his pitch count up to damn near 100 pitches in 5 innings. He has to get taken out. I'm going, why did you change? If they can keep dance with the girl that brought you, all right? If the fastball slider combination is working and they can't hit it, what are you doing? I understand. Oh, well, you showed him something this. So now I have to show him something different the next time. But if your other 2 pitches aren't as good as your 2 pitches that are working, stick with the 2 pitches that are freaking working. And that's very Rothschild. Overthinking it and not just going with, well, scouting report here says the Diamondbacks lineup can't hit fastballs and sliders. Blake Snell's 2 best pitches are fastball and sliders. Throw the curveball. What the hell are you
doing? I completely agree, and I appreciate your passion for that.
Man, you got me going on Padre stuff. It's like, telling. Yeah, by the way,
that was my goal all along.
This is a good snippet of what you'll get on the On Friar podcast. Like, all you people calling for AJ's head are morons.
Oh, goodness. I don't even know where to get into that. Yeah. I mean, I've been a Padre fan since early 80s. I remember 84 watching the World Series. Our principal at our elementary school let us leave early so we can go home and watch the game. It was just wonderful. I remember that. And so seeing them now where ownership has allowed AJ to take them is such a huge switch for me. I'm still kind of not used to it. I'm still kind of waiting for things to, okay, we're going to sell off everyone again. I'm still kind of waiting for that shoe to drop for some reason. So it's just like, getting myself to believe that it's not. So we'll see. And I think the rest of the season, it is now a sprint. So hopefully the fire or the matches have been lit under the players. And I think maybe even like with last year in the whole 60-game season, they knew it was a sprint. So maybe now they realize to get back into that same mantra, that same mentality. So hoping for the best. And as a Padre fan, ready for everything else.
Yeah, the problem is even changing the pitching coach is not going to change the fact that the offense has been crap for the last couple of weeks. And in fact, this year, everybody not named Fernando Tatis Jr., Jake Cronenworth, or Manny Machado has really, and Austin Nola to an extent when healthy, they have been underachieving. Eric Hosmer's underachieved. Will Myers is underachieved. Trent Grisham is underachieved. Jurickson Profar is underachieved. Victor Caratini, I think, has been what he is. Ha-Sung Kim, I think, has been actually defensively has been amazing. Offensively, he's learning. He's shown some flashes. But man, other than that, I mean, Tommy Pham had those 2 awful months and then got real hot, and he's just kind of been hit or miss for the last several weeks. There's just no consistency with anybody up and down that lineup, and that's been the frustrating thing. These dudes are too darn talented. They have too much ability to produce runs. They should have been bailing their pitching staff out a few of these games, and they simply haven't been.
Yeah, I completely agree. So everyone out there, this is what you'll get on Friar. So make sure you go subscribe, follow them. And I think I won't take up too much of your time on Padres right now because I want everyone to go listen to you and watch your own podcast there. But I think
I appreciate that. Yeah,
I think the fact that the city of San Diego cares so much about the Padres now is a testament to what the whole management and leadership have done to, kind of switched. I mean, for a long time, people in San Diego were very apathetic about it. And that was even before the Chargers, or after the Chargers left. There was, okay, they're there, they're cool. There's a lot of, like my mom is, a lot of fair weather fans. So I think it's become now, especially since I'm more involved on Twitter with it, and I see like the Padre Twitterverse, they are really cutthroat at times. But I think the fact that they actually care is what means something to me.
Padres Twitter is a cesspool.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a nasty place. I don't go there. I put stuff out for work purposes, and then I go
You're
away.
Like, run away.
I like hanging out a lot more anyway. What I've learned about San Diegans and San Diego sports fans is this, and going through the Chargers relocation, I absolutely learned this, and I'll tell you this beyond the shadow of a doubt. I saw Qualcomm Stadium in 2006. And I saw it in 2007 when the Chargers were committed and they had a good roster and they were trying to win. And opposing teams didn't take over that place. No. Steelers, not even Steelers fans came in there and overran that place. Cowboys fans didn't come in there and overrun that place. Raiders fans, sure as hell, didn't come in there and overrun that place. And then you look at what happened with the Padres in 2015. When they went out and got Will Myers and Matt Kemp and James Shields and Justin Upton. And I mean, they were the talk of baseball. It looked like they were trying. And lo and behold, what happened? The Padres had 3 million in attendance for the first time since 2007, which of course was the last year before that, other than 2010, which is a complete fluke. They were coming off 2 division titles. They went to game 163. Matt Holliday still hasn't touched the damn plate.
Exactly. He has not touched the plate.
He hasn't touched the plate since 14 years since that man touched the plate, which is astonishing to go that long without actually touching the plate. But what happened, it showed me is, when a franchise shows San Diego that they care, San Diego cares back. Because we got too much other stuff to worry about. We got too much other stuff to do. We got too many other things. If you're going to go out there and just kind of flop your way through a season and not show us that you're trying to win, we'll go to the beach. We'll go to SeaWorld. We'll go to the zoo. We'll go do a bunch of other cool. We'll go to Temecula and get some wine. Like, we'll do a bunch of other stuff, right? But the second that you show us that you're trying to win, we are on board and we're all in with you.
Very true.
My wife and I are season ticket holders for the Padres. We've seen ever since Petco Park was open again to full capacity. It has been. They haven't had a crowd less than like 27,000, and darn near all of them are well over 30,000. People care because the Padres have shown that they care and they're trying. You don't even have to win in San Diego. You just have to show that you're trying to win, and we will get behind you. And that's the Chargers' biggest issue is. The Spanos family never showed they were trying to win. All they ever showed was, we want a new stadium. We want you guys to pay for it, or we'll go to LA. And you hear that for long enough, it doesn't matter how good the roster is. They're going to be like, dude, if you don't want to be here, fine, go. Fine, go. And that's when Peter Seidler and Ron Fowler said, no, we're investing in the ballpark. We're investing in this team. We're investing in this community. People jumped in full-fledged. I go to the grocery store now, and I have a hat on, and people start going, boy, how about those Padres? I mean, just out of nowhere, people just starting conversation with anyone who's wearing Padres gear. We take the dogs for a walk, and people just go, you see a Padres shirt on, hey, go Padres. Like the
Same
team can just galvanize the whole city. It's amazing because they're trying.
And even beyond San Diego, up here in Vegas, I see Padre hat, Padre shirt, and we start up a conversation. And it's like that around the country, especially with Tatis. And people were wearing his jersey. And I saw someone, or I read somewhere about some kid in New Jersey who was wearing a Tatis jersey. And then like some Padre fan was over there and they started a conversation. So that just goes to show how much a player A and an ownership and franchise B can elevate a city and a fan base and go beyond sports. So,
yep, it does. It's a community.
Yes,
it's a community. It's a fun place to go hang out. It's a place to be with your friends and feel either pleasure or pain together.
That's true. That is very true. Very true. Didn't think about it like that. Yeah, you go live those moments together and sharing that memory. So yeah,
it's like being an Auburn fan. It's like when they win, everything's good for a week. When they lose, your week sucks. It's like that. That's just how it is,
Yeah, I hear you.
Like a couple years ago when they went out and beat Oregon and Justin Herbert in the first game of the year, it was like, woo, national championship game, here we come. It was, you just feel like, man, they can beat a dude like that and a team like that on a neutral field. it's on. And then we realized that, Bo Nix was way over his skis and Gus Malzahn is a terrible game planner, and the season went completely sideways. But for that 1 week, it was the best week ever.
Yeah. Completely agree. Well, I will wrap it up here and say thank you again, Derek, very much for taking some time out of your day to chat with us. We really appreciate it here at PopCultX, and we hope to hear more from you soon. We'll share out all your info on our website, on our social media platforms. And thank you again for taking some time today.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on. Fun talking to you. It's nice to talk to some fellow sports fans, especially San Diego sports fans. Anytime you guys want to chat, man, hit me up.
Will do. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it.